Hello everyone, welcome to another storytime video. So this storytime Spaceship Mode is sort of a follow-up to one of my previous stories called Lightning Mode. So if you kind of remember in the story, just kind of give you a quick little recap, I guess. I was with a buddy and with a couple of buddies actually, and one of them had just gotten a Ford Lightning electric truck, yada yada yada. It was a cool little story of us taking the truck to go pick up some weed and mushrooms, stuff like that. So fast forward about a year later, a year and a little bit of some change maybe. No, my God, I'm sorry. See, this story didn't even happen that long ago. We're already messing it up. So I would say fast forward a couple months, right? We're in probably May of 2024. And, I had a car at the time, but it was a 20 plus year old car, modified. It wasn't super reliable, right? It was good to get you to and from places, but not really like a car you'd want to be Ubering people in or stuff like that. So, it did its thing, and great car. I still have it to this day, but anyway, so we'll get to that. So, I'm watching YouTube or whatever, and I'm just one down. I'm not doing shit, right? I'm not doing anything. I'm just chilling. It's a beautiful day, and as always, the vibes are flowing, right? We gotta mention and pay some respects to those vibes. So either way, right? I'm chilling, watching some YouTube, and I'm watching I'm seeing this guy's videos kind of come up a little more frequently. This guy called Trevor's Deliveries, whatever he does, DoorDash, stuff like that, Uber Eats. And I'm kind of realizing, I'm like, damn, he's making more money doing that than I really was, working at the job I just left, which was at Costco, right? I was working at Costco, hated it, terrible, horrible hours, started at like 3 a.m., I had to wake up at 1 a.m. to drive there, so far away. I'm not trying to complain. I signed up for it, but I just kind of come from that. So I was really trying to look for a sweet little deal, if you will. And, I'm seeing his videos. I'm going, that's really promising. The problem is I just don't have a car. And I actually was trying to get a car, but just without a co-signer or, I didn't have a big pile of cash sitting around. So wasn't really in the position to go finance a car or even lease a car, right? I just didn't really have, I wasn't quite there yet. I was getting close, right? But we're just not quite there yet. So, I'm looking at my options, right? I'm trying to think, right? And I'm kind of, formulating and, thinking of different things. And I sort of realized that, you could rent a car, right? And this might not be the most revolutionary idea to a lot of people. Dude, you've been able to do this since before they had cars. It didn't even make any sense, but that's how long we've known about it. Well, I wasn't really, that's not where my mindset was. But one fine, the same fine day, I'm watching Trevor's Deliveries, right? I'm watching him, make those deliveries, and I'm chilling out or whatever, and I realized, I'm like, dude, I could go rent a car. Because so here's the thing. So it kind of came up in a weird way because it was kind of, me and my mom were talking about a mini road trip or whatever, going to see my grandma. So I'm like, and she's like, well, we could rent a car. And that's kind of when all the pieces, I had all these pieces, floating around. And it was at this moment that they sort of started to connect. And, lo and behold, right, I'm sitting on a, gold mine of an idea. I'm going to rent a car and I'm going to basically get it for a week and a half. And we're going to use that for the little road trip. But, the little caveat here is I'm going to run up some numbers on DoorDash. So, because I already had an account. I had signed up back in 2018, back when it was first on the market. Actually, a little side note, back when I signed up for DoorDash, you actually had to go to a place. It was a little interview. It was a group interview, but still you had to go somewhere, sit there for an hour, watch safety videos and stuff. It wasn't just oh, sign up on my phone, here we go. At least that's how it was like back in like 2018. Maybe, yeah, I don't know. Who knows, right? Maybe they still do that in some places. But so anyways, so I already had an account. I'm like, this is gonna work perfectly. So I'm calling around, looking at, trying to see what my price, what options are for prices and stuff. And I'm like, I need something compact, good on gas, small, lightweight. In my mind, I was thinking a Corolla, right? I'm like, let me just get a Corolla, we'll be good, right? Maybe a Civic, something like that, will be good. I'm kind of excited because, the car I had, as much as I loved it, cool little modified car, whatever, the radio was broken. It was an older car. So just to be in a new kind of car with a radio and stuff, I was kind of excited for that. I was like, this is going to maybe work out pretty good. So I'm looking at Enterprise. I'm looking at all the different places. I can't really find the car that I want. Like, I can find some full-size sedans. I can find, like, SUVs and stuff, but I really can't find compact cars. It's a really hot item, especially in the, start of the summer. So I'm like, okay, well, let me see what I can do here. And I'll try one of the final places. I try Avis and Budget. And, if you actually remember in the Corona Chronicles, we used Budget to rent that truck, and it was one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. No, not really, but it should say something that, Budget was my last choice. And, but it is what it is. They had a Corolla. By the sounds of it on the phone, the guy's saying that, it's a 2024. It's only got 1,000 miles on it. I'm sitting here thinking, it's like me getting a brand new car, and in the beginning, I didn't really realize, like, I wasn't thinking like, oh, monthly rates. Like, if you rent a car for a month at a time, you're going to get a way better price than if you rent it for like a week and a half or 2 weeks at a time. Like, so I didn't really realize that. So initially I'm not making any money because I think the first rental was like $1,500 because I only got it for like 10 days maybe, and I kept extending it. So I was just paying way too much money for it. My monthly price ended up being like eight something, $900. So still very expensive, but to rent. So the thing about renting a car too is it's unlimited miles. It's, maintenance free. You don't have to worry about that. You just got to put gas and go, right? So that was perfect for what I needed just to get my foot in the door. It's like, all right, let's see if this is really something that's profitable or going to work out, so I feel like that was kind of perfect. I mean, really, to rent a car, you just have to be 25 with a credit card. And I think actually you could be less than 25 if you just pay some kind of fee, or maybe even use like Turo or something. Use like a different service. Maybe don't go through like a big rent-a-car company, whatever. But, I was 25 with a credit card, so it wasn't a problem. And, so I remember I get there, and of course, there's always hidden fees. So like, I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be my price. And then they tack on an extra $200. So I'm like, geez, I'm really sit like, cause this was pretty much like, I had like $1,000 to my name at this point, like no cap. And I was like, of course I had my credit cards, but I wasn't going to count credit card balance as money that I had, right? I had 1,000 positive, and then I had like a $3,000 credit card I could use, but I really didn't. I was only going to use the 1,000. You see what I'm saying? I'll pay that off on the card. Boom. Okay. Not in any debt. So that was my strategy, right? Going into this, I'm going in positive. And whatever. So I get the car, and like for the first couple days, maybe even the first almost week, right? Because I wasn't quite to the road trip yet, right? And I know the story. There's a lot of the beginning, but we gotta kind of dive into this specific part so it all makes a little more sense. So, I'm doing this for about a week, not really making any money. So at first, it's not seeming super profitable, right? But I stick with it, and here's where it kind of begins to turn around. I ended up getting to platinum status on DoorDash, which really helped specifically for my market, because then I was able to dash at any moment, not just when it was busy. And so I'd say it took, about a month before I started the first month I didn't even make any money. I didn't even break even. It was like between gas, renting the car, and just those two things, I lost money. But I didn't lose much. I only lost like maybe $100 out of that thousand, right? Or because remember, this is just the first 10 days. Then I did another rental for like a week. It took me about a month to dial in. Like, it wasn't until a month of me kind of doing weekly rentals or whatever before I did the full month. And then once I did the full month, that was the big game changer, because boom, now it's way cheaper. And at that point I was starting to actually make some money. So boom, we stuck with it. It was kind of the first 2 to 3 months were kind of rough, but honestly, I did it for about 6 months in that Corolla, and it was fantastic. But kind of a small car for me personally. I'm not super tall, but not the most comfortable thing in the world. And so I was kind of burning out. Like, I was trying to, like, the goal was to go 6 months, to have enough work history, credit history, all that, have enough money saved up to be able to go get a car, right? And once the 6 months passed, I was pretty burnt out on DoorDash. Like, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to do this anymore. Wasn't even making a ton, like, the first 6 months. It really wasn't until the Corolla started acting up that things started working more in my favor. And I know this is kind of more recent. This is super recent, but, and things could all, go south here very quickly, but we're just, we're kind of, we're riding on just the grace of God right now, and knock on wood, everything's okay. But yeah, so I'd say in January, start of February, the Corolla started acting up. And the thing about renting too, like, it was cool. It actually was working for me, just in the sense that, like, I was, able to pay for the rental, make extra money on top, do everything I needed, and not have a big debt of a car payment over my head, or I wasn't paying all this money in car repairs. So it kind of was making sense, but not really. Like, it was just good enough to kind of get by for a time period. It really, like, I needed this moment to happen where it was kind of my fault, but not really, because I took it in to get an oil change, and, like, the shop or whatever, that this was the budget rental company's specified shop, like, go here for oil changes. And they did a tire rotation too, and, like, I don't know, they messed up one of the sensors in the, I don't know what they did, but, like, coming home from there, tires leaking, I could have ran over a nail or something, but who knows? Like, it wasn't a big deal, right? Tires leaking though. And so I called them, I'm like, hey, can I need to get a car today, because I need to work, and I need to, I didn't tell them I was using it for DoorDash. That's another thing too. If you're renting a car, I wouldn't necessarily, like, go out of your way to advertise, like, yeah, thank you so much, I'm renting this to drive for DoorDash. Like, just maybe don't mention that part. Like, you could say it's for work or something, but some rental companies that might not be in their policy. So just don't say you're doing it for DoorDash or Uber. But either way, yeah. So they're like, all right, well, you can bring it in. We don't have any vehicles though, or, like, at the moment we do have an electric vehicle. And I was like, that I don't know if that's gonna work out for me, because I've never used an electric vehicle before. They didn't even specify the brand, so I'm just, in my head, I'm thinking it's like a Hyundai or something like that, something maybe like a Ford, I don't know, something that's just not that great, like a Chevy Bolt or something, like, because they're giving it to me for the same price as the Corolla. Well, I needed to work. I really didn't have too much of a choice. I was like, let me just try the electric car, if anything, see how it works. They actually told me they could give me a charger that I could use at my house. So I was like, wow, this actually might work out great. Of course, lo and behold, we get there. Car doesn't come with a charger, but and they actually don't even have a car. They're like, oh wow, we don't even have a car at the moment. So I'm like, I just drove all the way down here, got this car, bad tire, it's leaking air. I don't really want to go get stuck somewhere. So I'm like, is there anything you guys can do for me? And they're like, well, We do have a Tesla, but it's kind of a higher price range, and or they're like it's more expensive or whatever. But since you've been with us for, and this could all be bullshit, they could all just be saying this because you know they just wanted to butter me up. But they're like, oh, since you've been renting so long from us, whatever, we'll give you the Tesla for the same price as the Corolla. And I'm sitting there kind of like pretty hyped, I'm like, wow, this is kind of sick, I mean, I've never been in a Tesla, never driven a Tesla. I was kind of excited. I was like kind of getting, feeling good again, feeling kind of that new excitement that I needed to keep me going forward because like I said, I was just kind of getting burnt out, especially in the Corolla. Just, I love Corollas. They're amazing cars, but I think if you're like over like 5'9", 5'10", it's probably not gonna be the most comfortable car for you. And just at the end of the day, like, I mean, unless it's a hybrid or something, yeah, Corollas get great gas mileage, but electric cars are even cheaper. So it's like, it's kind of hard to justify. But I mean, it's all what you want at the end of the day. It's all, I'm not trying to, it's not like an ad or something. Like, but anyways, we haven't even gotten to the good stuff yet. So they have a Tesla Model 3 for me. It's a 2023 white, it's a good looking, this is like the nicest car I've ever driven. And they, give me the keys. I remember just sitting in it and it was so comfortable. I just felt like being in some kind of like, it felt like being in a spaceship. Honestly, I was like, yeah, now I get it. It only took, all I had to do was sit in the car. And this was actually on Valentine's Day too, February 14th, 2025. So it's, something I'll never forget because it was a cool day too because, I'm picking up all these flowers and stuff. I am, driving around in my, nice new car. I'm feeling a little upgraded, I'm feeling a little refreshed. And the acceleration on that thing was crazy. It was just a base model rear wheel drive, but man, dude, especially compared to a Corolla, those things get it, dude. And I don't know if it's because it's rear wheel drive, but you could really, you could put some power down and have a little bit of fun. And so I was enjoying it. Loved every minute of it. Actually only had that white Tesla for maybe like a week and a half, 2 weeks. And then that car got a flat tire too. And now I know what you're thinking. 2 flat tires in a row. Is this the company's fault or is this my fault? Well, here's the thing, truly. Being rental cars and being the budget company, they don't change the tires. They don't change stuff until it breaks. So when I got this Tesla, the tires were bald as shit, and I put like 2,000, 3,000 miles on it. Probably like 2,000 miles in that time. Cause we did a little drive out to a casino one night, a couple buddies, and just did a couple fun things too, as well as worked. So I put on more miles than usual, but yeah. So I had to give the white Tesla back, and it was the only reason I gave it back was I was like, do you guys have another Tesla I could trade this for? And lo and behold, they were actually, I don't know if these guys just love me or if this is just how they, treat all their customers, but they actually were able to get me into a gray, dark gray, still 2023, had way more miles on it, and it actually reeked like vomit when I got it. So I was like, oh no. I actually called them right away. I was like, I think I could trade this out for that white one when you get the tires to put on it. And they're like, yeah, just give us a call. So, I was just, I don't know. Once I got in the Tesla, man, I didn't want to get out. It just felt so right. And, for what I was doing, driving all day, you got that regenerative braking, you got, I don't know, just all these small features like the blind spot, cameras or park assist, brake assist, things like that just, not having a key. I mean, it really made me feel more efficient in my work, and it made me want to work more. And so I actually, this was the moment, truly, like getting the Tesla was what put me, was kind of what I needed. It was like I needed a little bit of fire under my ass, if you will, because I wasn't really feeling like, I wasn't really seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, if you will. Like I was just kind of getting by. And this was really a pivotal moment for me because, I actually loved the Tesla so much. I was like, dude, I got to get one, you know? And I was only driving one for about a month before I'm calling up dealerships and called up probably 4 or 5 different ones, and finally kind of found one. I was, low miles. I was like, dude, this got to be the one. And, drove 3 hours away, went out there. They made, I went, made an offer. They said yes, got the car financed. And here's the cool thing too. Like, I don't want to really go into too many of the details of all that because it's not super important. But the cool part about me financing the car, probably my favorite part is right when I go on the test drive, right? They have a buyer call in and he's offering cash. He's acting like a big shark, right? He's ready to snatch up this deal, and the really cool thing to me is here's little old me, first time car buyer, no money down, just riding off the faith of my credit score. And honestly, I think it's the fact too, I drove the rental Tesla to the dealerships. I'm pulling up in a Tesla already. I really think that helped because it's like, it kind of created the illusion I was closer, or I was already where I kind of said I was or wanted to be. And I don't know if they took that into account too or what, but like I said, I put no money down on this car. I just walked in, signed some papers, and walked out. And now I had 2 Teslas. And it felt ridiculous, but I was like, I'm going to enjoy this because it's never going to happen again. Like, I'm never going to have, 2 fucking Teslas at the same time. So, or 2 of any, it was funny. But I still had the rental for like 2 more weeks because of how I was renting it by the month. So I ran up the rental for 2 more weeks. And fast forward a little more today, here we are. I just got my home charger installed, so now I can charge at home. No more superchargers unless I need to, or I'm going on a road trip, which I just took a little road trip in my Tesla about a week or 2 weeks ago now. Time's flying. And it was so comfortable, so enjoyable. Charging was like, add an extra 30 minutes to my trip. Big deal, got to enjoy time with my mom, and it was really cool, man. So yeah, here we are today. Got the Tesla, got the spaceship, and it's really cool to think back to the lightning mode story, which really realistically was like under a year and a half ago. But to kind of look back and see how basically then I had nothing. Didn't even have a job in that story. Like, I literally was unemployed. I just quit my job. This was right before Costco. I was just job hopping, and had no job at this point. And yeah, I remember how much I love my friend's electric, vehicle, and that kind of spaceship vibe that I don't know. And I'm loving every day, man. I love my Tesla. It's just, it's cool. I don't see it as something like I own to kind of have fun in. It's more of my work. Like, it is my work. It's my office. It's kind of, and having a chronic back injury as well. It's kind of like, because I could have got the Corolla. I was going to buy the Corolla, I was going to buy a 2024. But, and this is a part I didn't mention in the story, like, before I went to go buy the Tesla, and I ran the numbers on the Corolla, and it was going to be like, like the Corolla was going to be like 30,000, maybe a little more. And the Tesla was 38. So, I mean, it's like, and I know I could have gotten a way better deal, but as a first time car buyer, it's like, I did what I wanted to do because I didn't want to be relying on the rental company and keep getting stranded. And I figure if I'm going to be making a high payment every month anyways, it might as well go to something that I own anyways. So it's like some like at first my parents were mad. Some people were mad, like, oh, it's too expensive. You shouldn't be driving that expensive car to work, stuff like that. But I think now people are more realizing, like, it's not like I just went out and bought like a nice BMW or a nice Mercedes to drive like literally just to and from my job, sit in the parking lot 8 hours a day. I drive the Tesla 10 hours a day. You know, I'm in there all day. And so it feels justifiable. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'll be making a video soon after this called Graveyard Mode, where I'm filing for bankruptcy. There's, oh gosh, no, but you got to see the humor in life a little bit. That's kind of the way things tend to go. Is you go up and down, and you got to enjoy the ride, man. But for what it is, this doesn't feel as much of an up right now. It just feels more like it feels right. It just, you know, I don't know, and I don't want to say too much. Get into too much of the details, because that's not the important thing, man. This story is kind of just about how much can change in a year, I think. Because especially if you go back and watch Lightning Mode, like, I really think you'll see a difference. And I know a lot of people, hey, whatever, man. I'm not even going to get into all of that. I'm happy to be here as always. Thank you so much for listening. And yeah, as always, man, we'll see you in the next one. Peace.